If you've activated the recipe plugin, then that's fine, but you'll need to deactivate it for now. In this lecture, we'll be doing some plugin activation settings and add some plugin security. As developers, we have to do everything in our power to secure our plugins. Of course, we can't account for every hack there is. Throughout this course, I'll be sure to advise you what you can do to secure your plugin. One course of action we can take to secure this plugin is preventing users from calling this plugin directly. It's common for hackers to try to visit the file directly instead of letting WordPress load it. So how do we prevent this? Well, it's actually quite simple. Open up the recipe plugin file. At the very top, add a conditional statement. This conditional statement will check to see if a function exists. WordPress loads its own files and constants before loading plugins so that they're available to us. The function we want to check exists is called addAction. If this function doesn't exist, then we know for sure that WordPress isn't loaded and therefore we don't want to run the rest of this script. Inside this conditional statement, we're simply going to echo out a message. Hi there, I'm just a plugin. Not much I can do when called directly. And then exit out of here. This way of doing it is common amongst plugins. Actually, I took this from the plugin Akismet. This is a plugin pre-packaged with most WordPress installations. Let's take a look. If we open the Akismet folder and view the akismet.php file, you'll find that this is implemented in the same style and fashion as the recipe plugin. This isn't completely foolproof, but this should stop some of the most basic attacks out there. Let's begin working on the plugin activation now. Inside the main plugin file, let's add some sections first. Here are the 4 sections that we'll make: setup, includes, hooks, and shortcodes. Under the hooks section, we're going to call a function called register activation hook. This function is a special kind of hook made specifically for plugins. This function will be called when our plugin is activated. This function has 2 parameters. The first parameter is the path to our plugin. We could use some built-in functions to get the path, but there's actually a simpler way of doing this. PHP provides a constant named file. This constant will always point to the file it's used in. The second parameter is the name of the function that will execute. We'll call this rActivatePlugin. Just like last time, I'll be prefixing the variables, functions, and anything else with r underscore to prevent collisions with other plugins and themes. Let's define this function now. Create a folder called includes, and within this folder, create a file called activate.php. Within this file, determine the function and make sure to include it from the main plugin file. Before we execute any code, I want to check if the current version of WordPress is compatible with this plugin. You can set this to any version you'd like, but I'm going to keep things simple and say that the minimum version required is 5.0. Inside the activation function, we're going to use a conditional statement. Inside this conditional statement, let's call the version compare function. This is a PHP function that will help you with comparing versions. The reason we use this function rather than a traditional comparison operator is because versions will usually have multiple decimals. For example, WordPress currently released version 5.0.1. This is a number that can't be compared traditionally. So this function will help you with that no matter the schematic versioning you use. For the first parameter, I'm going to use the getBlogInfo function and pass in the value version. This will return the current WordPress installation version. The second parameter is 5.0, which will be the minimum version required. Lastly, we'll use the less than operator. This will basically check if the current version is less than the minimum required version. For example, if the current version is 5.8, then it would be processed as 5.8 less than 5.0. This will return false, which is great because that means our plugin is compatible with the WordPress installation. However, if this returns true, then that means the WordPress version is really low. If it is, then we don't want to activate this plugin. So we'll use the wp-die function and output the following message. You must update WordPress to use this plugin. Make this string translatable. The text domain this time will be recipe. Alright, so activate your plugin and you should be able to do so without any errors. Now we can start developing the plugin. We'll be revising this function later to create some settings, but for now we'll leave it as is.